I'd like to talk about MLB free agency. There hasn't been a ton of movement yet, but certainly that's going to pick up in a few days with the winter meetings just around the corner here next week. But there were a couple of moves over the last few days that I'd like to get into. The two major moves that happened over the last few days. The first one being Jose Abreu, the 2019 American League MVP, first baseman of the, formerly, I should say, the first baseman of the Chicago White Sox. Spoiler, no longer with the White Sox. He signed a 3-year deal with the World Series champion Houston Astros, worth roughly about $58.5 million. So certainly a good payday for him. I actually did see in my research for this that his last contract with the White Sox was 3 years, $50 million. So obviously a little bit of a pay raise for Mr. Abreu there, and certainly well deserved. I think a lot of White Sox last year had years that they probably would wish they could have back. Certainly underperformed quite a bit over last season, but certainly when you win an MVP during your contract, you're probably going to be in line for a bit of a pay raise. And the reason I think mainly why Jose Abreu didn't get even more of a pay raise than what he got is twofold. One, because obviously he had a little bit of a down year last year, and two, because of his age. I believe Jose Abreu is getting up there. He's probably 35, 36 years old at this point. And actually, I am going to check that real quick. And yep, 35 years of age, certainly definitely going to be getting up there in age, if not now, then soon, to the point of regression. Jose Abreu has really done a great job of kind of staving that off over the years. Certainly you kind of see in baseball once you kind of hit 30 years old, and actually kind of, quite frankly, in sports in general, most of the time when you hit 30, that's kind of when it starts to go downhill for you. But baseball, you can kind of wait a little bit longer depending on the position, and Jose Abreu is one of those guys. He hasn't really hit that plateau yet, although he did have a down year last year, so we'll see if that starts to hit now. But I think this is it's an interesting move for the Astros. Certainly, it's an upgrade at first base if that's what you were going for over Yuli Gurriel, but I quite frankly think that Yuli Gurriel kind of gives you similar things for what I would hope would be much, much cheaper. Now, Yuli Gurriel's also getting up there in age. He's older than Jose Abreu by a couple of years, but Yuli Gurriel is a little bit better against lefties, much like Jose Abreu. He's a right-handed batter, much like Jose Abreu, and he's, not really great for 40 or 50 home runs, but he'll get you a better average. Now, in that way, Jose Abreu and Yuli Gurriel are a little bit different. Jose Abreu, not necessarily known as an average guy, although he has had several seasons where his batting average has been pretty good, and his on-base percentage has been pretty good, but he's a little bit more of a power guy. So you're basically trading a little bit more power for a little bit less contact for Jose Abreu. But all in all, they're not the most dissimilar players in the world, at least in my mind. Now, obviously, there's room for disagreement there, but I think, quite frankly, you're not really getting a gigantic upgrade over Yuli Gurriel, especially given Jose Abreu's kind of regressed last year. But again, it is an upgrade, certainly, albeit, again, in my opinion, a slight one. But you know what? When you are the defending world champs and you got a little bit of money to shell out, you might as well go for the slightly better player, even if you have to overpay a little bit. So certainly, I don't hate the signing at all. I do just think that you may have had other options elsewhere that would have given you similar things for less money. But then again, we will see how that goes. But certainly good for Jose Abreu. He was one of those players that I was a little worried wasn't going to get the payday that he deserved. But the Astros saw his importance. And good for Jose Abreu in the way that he is, going from a team that over the last 3 years has kind of been in that World Series hunt, with the exception of the down year last year for the White Sox. But a team that everybody was kind of like, oh, they're right there, they're going to put it all together, and then just never did. And he's now moving on to a franchise that has certainly put it all together and has gone to 4 or 5 World Series just in this decade at this point, with 2 World Series victories, obviously. So certainly a team that's a little bit more consistent, certainly a team that has won a lot more than the White Sox have over the last decade. And so again, congratulations to Jose Abreu, and I certainly hope it works out. The second contract that I want to talk about is a much smaller deal, although I think one that could end up being a better deal for the team, depending on how this shakes up, will be Mike Clevinger signing with the Chicago White Sox for a 2-year, $11 million deal. So again, Mike Clevinger is a guy that in 2019 or 2018, one of the two, I can't remember, but he had 200 innings, over 200 strikeouts, a 3 ERA, a 3 strikeout to walk ratio, which is right about where you want to be. So you know what? I think that if he can kind of get over that injury bug and he can put it together, I think that that's a real big coup for the White Sox. It gets them some pitching depth that they really just haven't had because they have been ravaged with injuries. Now, if you look at the starting rotation for the White Sox, you're not going to think that it's a bad rotation. Lance Lynn, former All-Star. Lucas Giolito, one of the utmost aces in the game today when he is healthy and when he's put it all together. Obviously, a young Dylan Cease, who the last 2 seasons has really, really looked sharp. And so that's your top 3 right there. And then they obviously had guys like Dallas Keuchel and a spattering of others. Obviously, Michael Kopech, who they're hoping will be a starter someday, but he just cannot stay healthy. And even when he has been healthy, he hasn't really been able to put it all together, especially with his fastball. His fastball, even though he's thrown 100-plus mile-an-hour fastballs, he gets hit very, very hard, specifically on that pitch. So he hasn't really been able to put it all together. So quite frankly, if you're the White Sox, having Mike Clevinger come in, I think that's a great thing for the team. If he can put it together, he does not have that pressure of being the number 2 or even the number 3 guy. When that full rotation is healthy, Mike Clevinger is going to be the number 4, maybe even the number 5, depending on how free agency shakes up, depending on how some other guys develop for the White Sox. And, just certainly kind of seeing how Michael Kopech will do. So I think that it's a great signing for the White Sox. I think it's a great signing for Mike Clevinger. I think that he's going to a team that, on paper should be pretty good next year. But we obviously said that last year, and the White Sox stunk up the joint. But on paper should be pretty good. So he'll, have that kind of, reason to go where you're going to be winning a lot, hopefully. You're going to have a good team. They're a young clubhouse, so he'll fit right in there because he's only 26 or 27 years of age, somewhere around there. So he'll fit right in. He'll still be able to develop, and yet he won't have the pressure of having to deliver an ace performance every single night. And, he didn't have a terrible year when he pitched last year. A 4.3 ERA, a strikeout to walk ratio that, again, was right around 3. But when he got to the postseason, he barely pitched, and when he did pitch, he wasn't particularly effective. Only a couple of innings and an ERA somewhere around 24, just not going to get it done. Now, granted, in that small of a sample size, that could just be, one bad, third of an inning, and then that's it. But the point being, he didn't pitch all that well when it counted. So, if you are the White Sox, you are hoping that you can kind of get Clevinger and bring him in, help him stay healthy, help him get his form back. Hopefully, he'll have a reasonably healthy offseason where he can get better and get back on track. And hopefully, he ends up performing well. Because, again, regardless of whether I root for a team or not, if there's a good player out there and they end up signing somewhere, I want to see all of them succeed because I just like watching good baseball. And Mike Clevinger, when he is healthy, is a very, very good pitcher and a fun pitcher to watch. A guy that can throw, in the high 90s when he's healthy. So, we'll definitely see where it goes from here. But, again, congratulations to Mike Clevinger, and hopefully congratulations to the White Sox as well. Hey, guys, me again. Thank you so much for watching one of my clips from the Lopes Goes Last podcast. These clips are so much fun to do. I absolutely love making them, and I absolutely love doing them. And this podcast is my baby. So I really want this thing to grow, and I really want it to succeed. So if you did like what you see, please subscribe. Also hit that bell notification so you never miss any one of my episodes or one of my clips like this one. And please do also like and share these videos with your friends and your family so that we can make this thing grow as fast as possible. And I wanted to thank you again so much. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a great rest of your day.